If you don't like watching tensions rise but still want the facts, then stay tuned for the latest on the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. This conflict has been simmering for years, but recent events have brought it to a boiling point. The situation is complex, involving historical grievances, political maneuvering, and regional power dynamics. Understanding the full scope of this conflict requires a deep dive into its origins and the current state of affairs. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to the early 1980s when Hezbollah was formed in response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Over the years, the group has grown in strength and influence, becoming a significant political and military force in Lebanon. The relationship between Israel and Hezbollah has been marked by periods of intense violence and uneasy truces, with both sides engaging in a cycle of provocation and retaliation. The current escalation is just the latest chapter in this long and bloody history. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has escalated dramatically, leading to the deadliest day since 2006. This escalation didn't happen overnight. It is the result of a series of provocations and retaliations that have spiraled out of control. Both sides have suffered losses, and the civilian population is caught in the crossfire. The international community is watching closely, but so far, efforts to mediate have been unsuccessful. The recent flare-up began with a series of border skirmishes, which quickly escalated into full-scale military operations. Hezbollah launched a barrage of rockets into northern Israel, prompting a swift and devastating response from the Israeli military. The situation has been further complicated by the involvement of other regional actors, each with their own agendas and interests. Iran, a key backer of Hezbollah, has been accused of supplying the group with advanced weaponry, while Israel has received support from the United States and other Western allies. Israeli airstrikes have targeted key Hezbollah positions in Lebanon, resulting in significant casualties and widespread displacement. These airstrikes are part of a broader strategy to weaken Hezbollah's military capabilities, but they have also caused extensive damage to civilian infrastructure. Schools, hospitals, and homes have been destroyed, leaving many without shelter or access to basic services. The psychological toll on the population is immense, with many living in constant fear of the next attack. The Israeli government has defended its actions, arguing that they are necessary to protect its citizens from Hezbollah's rocket attacks. However, human rights organizations have condemned the airstrikes, accusing Israel of using disproportionate force and failing to take adequate measures to protect civilians. The destruction of critical infrastructure has also raised concerns about the long-term impact on Lebanon's already fragile economy. Rebuilding will be a monumental task requiring significant international assistance and cooperation. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and thousands are fleeing the southern regions of Lebanon. Medical facilities are struggling to cope with the influx of wounded, and there is a severe shortage of medical supplies. Many of the displaced are living in makeshift shelters, with limited access to food, water, and sanitation. Humanitarian organizations are working around the clock to provide relief, but the scale of the crisis is overwhelming. The Lebanese government has declared a state of emergency and appealed for international aid, but the response has been slow and inadequate. The situation is particularly dire for vulnerable populations including children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing health conditions. The lack of access to clean water and sanitation has also raised fears of disease outbreaks, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. The international community has pledged support, but logistical challenges and security concerns have hindered the delivery of aid to those who need it most. International leaders, including the UN, are calling for immediate de-escalation. The United Nations has issued multiple statements urging both sides to cease hostilities and return to the negotiating table. Various countries have offered to mediate, but so far, these efforts have not yielded any tangible results. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of other regional powers, each with their own interests and agendas. The UN Security Council has held emergency meetings to address the crisis, but divisions among member states have hampered efforts to reach a consensus. Some countries have called for a ceasefire and the immediate resumption of peace talks, while others have taken a more hardline stance, demanding that Hezbollah disarm and cease its attacks on Israel. The lack of a unified international response has allowed the conflict to continue unabated, with devastating consequences for the people of Lebanon and Israel. Diplomatic efforts are in full swing to prevent further bloodshed and find a peaceful resolution. High-level meetings are taking place behind closed doors, with diplomats working tirelessly to broker a ceasefire. There is a sense of urgency, as the longer the conflict continues, the harder it will be to achieve a lasting peace. The stakes are high, not just for Israel and Lebanon, but for the entire region. The Middle East is already a volatile and unstable region, and any further escalation could have far-reaching consequences. Neighboring countries, including Syria and Jordan, are on high alert, fearing that the conflict could spill over into their territories. The potential for a broader regional war is a sobering reality, and it underscores the need for immediate and effective diplomacy. The international community must come together to find a solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict and paves the way for a sustainable peace. Despite these efforts, the situation remains highly volatile with ongoing airstrikes and a growing humanitarian crisis. The conflict has created a ripple effect, destabilizing neighboring countries and contributing to a broader regional instability. The humanitarian crisis is deepening, with more and more people in need of urgent assistance. The international community is pledging aid, but getting it to those who need it most is a logistical nightmare. The destruction of infrastructure, including roads and bridges, has made it difficult to transport supplies to affected areas. Additionally, the ongoing violence has created a dangerous environment for aid workers, further complicating relief efforts. The scale of the crisis is immense, and it will require a coordinated and sustained international response to address the needs of the affected populations. The resilience and determination of the Lebanese people are being tested like never before, and the world must stand in solidarity with them during this difficult time. Lebanon is facing a dire situation as the conflict continues, with the death toll rising. Families are mourning the loss of loved ones, and the social fabric of the country is being torn apart. The economic impact is also severe, with businesses destroyed and livelihoods lost. Rebuilding will take years, if not decades, and the psychological scars will last even longer. The resilience of the Lebanese people is being tested like never before. The destruction of homes and businesses has left many without a source of income, exacerbating the already high levels of poverty and unemployment in the country. The psychological impact of the conflict is also profound, with many experiencing trauma and anxiety as a result of the violence. The long-term effects of the conflict will be felt for generations, and it will require a concerted effort from the international community to support Lebanon in its recovery and rebuilding efforts. The international community is closely monitoring the developments, urging both sides to cease hostilities. World leaders are making public statements, calling for calm and restraint. There is a growing consensus that a military solution is not viable, and that only a negotiated settlement can bring lasting peace. However, finding common ground is proving to be a monumental challenge, given the deep-seated animosities and conflicting interests. The history of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict is marked by deep-rooted grievances and a lack of trust between the parties. Achieving a lasting peace will require addressing these underlying issues and finding a way to build trust and cooperation. The international community has a crucial role to play in facilitating dialogue and supporting efforts to find a peaceful resolution. The stakes are high, and the consequences of failure are dire, not just for Israel and Lebanon, but for the entire region. There are growing concerns about a broader regional conflict, making diplomatic resolution more urgent than ever. The Middle East is a tinderbox, and any escalation could have far-reaching consequences. Neighboring countries are on high alert, and there are fears that the conflict could spill over into other areas. The potential for a wider war is a sobering reality, and it underscores the need for immediate and effective diplomacy. The involvement of regional powers, including Iran and Saudi Arabia, has added another layer of complexity to the conflict. Both countries have their own interests and agendas, and their involvement has the potential to further escalate the situation. The international community must work together to prevent a broader regional conflict and find a way to bring the parties to the negotiating table. The stakes are high, and the consequences of failure are dire, not just for Israel and Lebanon, but for the entire region. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story. We will bring you the latest updates as they happen, providing in-depth analysis and expert commentary. Our team of journalists is on the ground bringing you first-hand accounts of the situation. In these uncertain times, staying informed is more important than ever. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe. The situation is fluid and new developments are occurring rapidly. Our team is committed to providing accurate and timely information to help you stay informed. We will continue to monitor the situation and provide updates as they become available. In the meantime, we encourage you to stay safe and take care of yourselves and your loved ones. The world is watching, and we must all do our part to support those affected by this conflict. Thank you for your continued support and for staying with us during these challenging times.